Why have we improved so many aspects of life, yet failed to become happier?
One of the reasons is that the brain is incredibly complex. So it comes down to how our brain works, and it is probably the least well understood organ in the body. We've extended life based on a really deep, impressive level of understanding of our physical body and our the systems that break down. I think there's whole new frontiers opening up about improving the physical quality of our life, right? As we learn more about what degeneration looks like in tissue, but we live longer. I think we're even making great progress on how to live more comfortably. But the psychological side all comes down to how well we understand any of this in the brain. And it's still this incredibly mysterious frontier of knowledge to me. It's the knowledge of knowledge itself. How exciting is that? And that is why I love being in this space. It's also very frustrating. And I think it's very frustrating to everyone who cares so much about the space that we don't understand it better and we don't have more. Another piece of it, though, which I'd be remiss not to mention, is that for at least the last 100 years, let's say, the agenda of psychological science has largely been about psychopathology. And this worked really well in other areas of medicine where you study disease and it teaches you about health. You study disease, you cure the disease, you extend life. It hasn't worked well in psychiatry. We still cannot cure a single psychiatric disease. We can treat symptoms and we can alleviate symptoms and we can help people get into remission, but we can't cure any of it. And it hasn't improved the overall levels of well-being. So what Marty Seligman did and his co-founders of positive psychology was to say, this is broken. It's not working. We haven't moved the needle. We should be focusing on psychological health itself, which we use the word well-being to talk about health and building psychological health. And so we have at least now coming up on 35 years of science around that. I think we've made a ton of progress in that time, particularly given that this is all mainly happening in academia. There aren't pharmaceutical companies working on psychological well-being, which is where a lot of the science happens, right? And the funding exists. So it's outside of that. And I think there's a lot more to be done, but there were many decades lost and, many trillions of dollars of funding that were spent before we understood that we couldn't just analogize the medical approach to the psychological.